It's been a long time coming for this figure. He's shown up in many a video on this channel, yet I've never truly wanted to go in on the figure until right about now. Because Transformers Red is a widely controversial toy line, because one, the whole theme, the whole base of the toy line is none of the figures transform, and as such they make up for that in articulation and accuracy. But more often than not, they drop the ball more than their actual transforming counterparts, which kinda defeats the whole purpose of the toy line. Which is why no one was surprised when Hasbro pretty much stopped marketing it and the figures stopped showing up at retail, and I'm not even sure if the toy line is still going anymore. Like, there were times when I will see people start talking about figures that I didn't even know were releasing. Like, when did Prime Knockout happen? I looked away for 5 minutes. So now moving on to the only figure that I'm pretty sure anyone bought from this toy line, R.E.D. Megatron. Unless you're a psychopath. Now this figure had one goal, and that one goal was to make the most G1 accurate Megatron Hasbro could make at a retail price point. And they kinda nailed it. God, I really hate that I had to put this off for so long. I really want to show this guy off. It's a bit dusty though. So this figure does look extremely accurate, making a smaller version of its own masterpiece. With its weird little underpants and beep boop R2-D2 buttons. His arms seem a little stubby though, but I feel like that's just like a thing with modern G1 Megatrons. It's all this sticker's fault, okay? How many times do we have to look at that picture and be like, oh, this is what his proportions are? When it's supposed to be from a human's perspective, which is why his legs are so long and his arms are so stumpy. Starscream's hand isn't as big as his entire head. Whatever. Anyway, so as great as the sculpting is, the paint seems a little barren though. Like, he's really only got these red bleeding sides and little bits on the arms. Like, isn't the entire inside of the leg right here supposed to be red? I don't know, maybe that's all the paint they could afford at this budget. But the thing is, there's something about red figures that it baffles me. Why is every single red figure made out of this weird, soft plastic, almost rubber material? Like, I never bought any other figures outside of this one, but from what I can tell, the RC was extremely bendy. Like, you could bend the calves, like the lower legs, an easy 90%, and it wouldn't break. But that's not the issue. Why is it doing that? Why is it bending? Why is it made of this rubber material when every single Transformer and every single hyper-articulated figure uses hard plastic? Why? It kind of makes me worry about the longevity of these things, because softer plastic tends to chip more, and it tends to, I wouldn't say more breakable, but it's easier to get chunks out of them if you're keeping them in like a bin. So being as accurate as possible to that friggin' fridge magnet, his legs are the size of the Empire State Building. Seriously, why? They're so long. I mean, I get it, they're nice to look at, they're fun to pose, but like, it makes, like, the legs are long, and the torso is stumpy, and it's like, he's not physically stumpy, but because of the small torso and the small arms, it makes the whole guy look stumpy. I don't know, maybe they should have used a different model for the Megatron. So, moving on to the Articulate, what the... Damn it. Okay, so now time to move on to the selling point of this whole toy line, the articulation. And since they got rid of the transformation, you best hope it's good. We have a ball joint in the head and at the base of the neck so you can get some good wiggly waggly movement. We have a waist rotation and an ab crunch. Hot rod shoulders, rotation here, 90 degrees of bend at the elbow, rotation, and I think there's hinge joint right there. ball joint here, rotation, double bend at the knee, and an actual revel type joint, so you can go up, down, rotate, and pivot. So while the articulation is good and you can get him into some mean poses, they're not poses I feel like are warranting getting rid of the entire alt mode. Like, these poses are good and you can get him into some good poses, but there are figures who transform and can still do just as much. Like, hell, I can do it with core class Megatron. And the lack of paint is just... it doesn't make the figure look good. Okay, that's not what I mean. What I mean is I don't see where the budget went on this figure. There's no paint, the articulation is okay at best. So did they really put all of the money into the accessories? Like, I understand a lot of big toy companies do that, like Reveltech and other examples that I can't think of. But if the entire basis of the toy line is that it has a really good articulation, why do you skimp out on such important things as like paint budget and articulation for things as menial as alternate hands? Now listen, I don't have any of his accessories. I bought this guy secondhand at a flea market for $5. Best $5 I've ever spent. But I don't understand why they would go so hard on the lack of transformation and on the accessories if it just hinders the figure itself more. I'm not even sure if this figure is still available, but please, if you find it for its original plate... oh god. I'm not sure if this figure is still around anymore, but please, if you find it at its original price, avoid it like the plague. This figure did not deserve the $20 to $25 price tag. $5 to $10 is perfectly reasonable, perfectly fair, because that's about how much as I think Hasbro put into this. This figure would make a great, like, paperweight or something. But, like, if you showed me that this was your default Megatron, you know, I wouldn't, like, get angry with you, but, like, you are wrong. Anyway, I give this figure a Daniel Witwicky out of empty pack of Trident Gum. Bye. Huh? We